Every week we see it. A headline, a number, 78,000 deaths. Fentanyl is now the leading cause of death for Americans under 50. They sound like statistics, but they're not. They're people. Each number represents someone who laughed, loved, dreamed, and mattered. But we've become so numb to the scale of this crisis that it barely registers anymore. The truth is, the real tragedy isn't just how many people we're losing, it's how easily the world forgets to count them. Welcome back to Logan's Voice. I'm Doug Ballinger, Logan's dad. This is where we turn pain into purpose and numbers into names. If you're watching on YouTube, take a second to hit subscribe and ring that bell. Each episode is built to do one thing: keep their stories alive and shine a light on what's really happening behind the statistics. Today, we're diving into what I call the math of misery. We'll break down the CDC's 2025 overdose data, the reality behind fentanyl's growing death toll, and how these numbers don't just represent loss, they represent neglect. Because behind every report and every missing line of data is a mother who buried her child, a father like me who will never be the same, and a community left to pick up those pieces. Let's start with what the numbers say. According to the CDC's 2025 provisional report, synthetic opioids like fentanyl claimed nearly 80,000 American lives in the past year. 80,000! That's roughly the population of a small city. Just gone. And that's just in 1 year. Fentanyl remains the leading cause of death for Americans under 50. More than car accidents, more than gun violence, more than suicide. Every single day, around 200 people die from fentanyl poisoning in this country. Think about that. That's a plane crash every single day. If a jet went down every 24 hours, the entire world would stop until it was fixed. But because this crisis doesn't explode in one place at one time, we've learned to look away. And here's the harder truth: even those numbers don't tell the full story. The CDC's own data is often delayed, incomplete, or misclassified. Some counties still don't test for fentanyl. Others don't update their reports for months. Many deaths go uncounted. So if 80,000 is what we know, imagine what the real number could be. It's a tragedy that's not just being lived, it's being undercounted. We've gotten so used to hearing overdose that we forget it's not a statistic, it's a person. These aren't anonymous deaths. They are sons and daughters. They are parents, partners, friends, and coworkers. They are people who loved music, who made others laugh, who were trying to heal, who were still figuring life out. There's stories like Logan's and like thousands of others. Young people trying to survive, stay clean, to find peace, who ended up poisoned by something they didn't see coming. Or they're the people who took what they thought was a simple pain pill, never knowing it was laced with fentanyl. And here's what most people don't understand: when one person dies, the grief doesn't stop at the family, it ripples outward like an explosion. You have parents, siblings, grandparents, cousins, and close friends. But then it stretches even further: coworkers, classmates, teammates, neighbors, church members, old friends from social media. Every single one of those people is impacted in some way. The empty space doesn't just belong to the family. It shows up in workplaces, in classrooms, in the silence between conversations that used to be easy. It's almost unquantifiable. We talk about 80,000 deaths in a year, but that's not 80,000 people affected. It's millions, millions of lives quietly reshaped by grief, guilt, trauma, and love with nowhere to go. Every single number is a story that keeps echoing. Every death leaves hundreds of tiny fractures in a community, some visible, some not. And that's why the math of misery is so deceptive, because it multiplies in ways we can't measure. When we talk about numbers, let's remember we're not counting deaths, we're counting lives forever changed. Here's where the math breaks down completely. Our system doesn't even count accurately. Some states don't require full toxicology testing. Others lack funding for medical examiners. So overdoses get misclassified as like cardiac arrest or respiratory failure. Those phrases end up on a death certificate. And just like that, the fentanyl crisis gets hidden inside the data. The reality is this: we're not only fighting a drug epidemic, we're fighting an information epidemic. Without accurate data, there is no urgency. Without urgency, there's no funding. And without funding, there's no change. That's why organizations are pushing for transparency for every county in every state to test for fentanyl and report results publicly. Because data isn't just numbers, it's accountability. If the government can count how many cars are recalled or how many flu shots are given, it should be able to count how many people are dying from fentanyl. Let's put this into perspective. For every person who dies, 9 close family members are deeply impacted. Multiply that by 80,000, and that's over 700,000 Americans grieving someone lost to overdose this year alone. That's not just numbers. That's the emotional population of a major city living in trauma. And it doesn't stop there. Behind those families are classmates, coworkers, church members, and friends, all affected by the ripple. This isn't a crisis contained to back alleys or city streets. It's in neighborhoods, schools, and small towns just like yours and mine. You see, the math of misery doesn't end when the numbers stop climbing. It continues in the silence afterward, in every unopened Christmas card, in every text that will never be answered, in every parent scrolling through old photos trying to hear their child's laugh one more time. This is the true cost of America's poison drug supply. We can't let our loved ones become statistics. That's the purpose of this movement, to bring their names back into the light. Every time you tell your child's story, you reclaim their humanity from the coldness of data. Every time you share their photo, you give a face to a crisis the world tries to ignore. That's what Logan's voice stands for. That no one lost to this epidemic will ever be reduced to a number again. Because when you say their names, Logan, Justin, Chase, you remind the world that these were people with dreams, humor, talent, and heart, people who mattered. And that's how we fight back, with stories, with truth, with love louder than silence. I'll leave you with this question. What if every number we saw in the evening news came with a name, a photo, and a family standing beside it? Would we finally act like this is the emergency that it is? Would we finally demand more from the people in power? Because maybe that's the real math of misery. Not how many lives we've lost, but how long we've waited to care. If this episode resonated with you, please share it, post it, say their names out loud. Let the world know that these lives matter. You can find links to the CDC's latest data, advocacy resources, and community support at logansvoice.org. And join an organization like Hope Movement Coalition, where families like mine are turning grief into change. I'm Doug Ballinger. I am Logan's voice. I am Logan's dad, and I will not be silent.